Hi, it's another of those one things that I'd like to share some thoughts with you today on. And that is one thing I do. The Olympic Games have had some very memorable moments. I think of the Russian gymnast Nadia Comaneci, who was given the first perfect 10 in the Montreal Olympics in 1976. Or who can forget Kathy Freeman in the Australian Olympics in 2000, in her green and white running suit, winning gold in the 400-metre sprint. They had trained for years, made huge sacrifices because their goal was Olympic gold. Hundreds of athletes make the same daily sacrifices for years so they too can be in the running for an Olympic medal. They echo the words of a famous writer, "This one thing I do, forgetting what is behind, I press on toward the goal." But not all memorable moments have resulted in athletes winning medals. Some of the most memorable for me are those where the character and not the athletic ability of the person was defined. Those who were injured and against all odds kept going until they passed the finish line. Gabriella Anderson-Scheiss was one of those. She became severely dehydrated during the last leg of the marathon in the Los Angeles Olympics. As she staggered into the stadium, she was very unsteady on her feet, and it was obvious she was very unwell. The crowd watched in dread and awe as she refused to give up. She eventually crossed the finish line about 5 minutes later. She didn't win a medal that day, but she won the hearts, admiration and respect of the world that watched. And there are many of these stories. All would echo these words, "This one thing I do, forgetting what is behind, I press on toward the goal." And we find these words in Philippians chapter 3, verses 13 to 14, and they were written by the Apostle Paul. "Brothers," he said, "I do not consider that I have made it my own. But one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and straining forward to what lies ahead, I press on toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus." And if anybody should be listened to, it's Paul. This is what he had to overcome. And we find it in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verses 25 to 28. 5 times I received from the Jews 39 lashes. Now this is what Jesus received on the day that he was crucified, 39 lashes. 5 times, Paul said, he had that. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea. I've been constantly on the move. I've been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my fellow Jews, in danger from Gentiles, in danger in the city, in the country, at sea, and in danger from false believers. I've laboured and toiled and have often gone without sleep. I've known hunger and thirst and have often gone without food. I've been cold and naked. Besides everything else, I face daily the pressure of my concern for all the churches. Paul came within an inch of his life many, many times. If that was you or I, seriously, wouldn't you ask yourself, is this really worth it? In spite of all this, he says, "This one thing I do, forgetting what lies behind and straining forward to what lies ahead, I press on toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus." Paul knew how much he'd been saved from, and his goal was eternity with God in heaven. And like any serious athlete, nothing was going to be allowed to distract him from that goal. His life here was all about Jesus, and that was the means to the end. For me to live is Christ, to die is gain. He was in a win-win situation, whether he lived or died. It didn't matter to him. His goal was the heavenly reward, the prize of seeing Jesus face to face. I guess Paul is a pretty extreme example of a follower of Jesus, and we probably will not be asked to make the same sacrifices that Paul did. But his goal should be the same goal as our goal. Our goal should be the same as his goal. The upward call of God. The prize of seeing Jesus face to face. Will you be ready when God calls you home? When he says your life here is over, will you be ready to go? Will you have done all that you could do to prepare for that time while you're here on earth? There's a lot to distract from that goal, but any sacrifices will be worth the prize of seeing Jesus face to face. Every day we need to remind ourselves that nothing here in this world should be our goal or prize. And like Paul say, this one thing I do, forgetting what is behind, I press on toward the goal. May God bless you. Have a great day.